المتقين في مقام أمين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلى الله محمد وعلى اللهم صل على محمد. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. As we know, Shahr Ramadan is upon us, probably 2 more weeks. This is the second last Friday, and then the following Friday is most likely the last Friday until Shahr Ramadan, inshallah. Also, it is very important for us to know and to remind ourselves to have taqwa, wa alaikum salam, and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And especially with what's going on around the world. Now, although there are certain things happening, certain so-called disasters happening, right? For example, when we look recently what happened in the States, especially in Dearborn, how they were flooded and then everything froze, right? Also here, this can remind us of something. This can remind us, although it's not a natural disaster, but also this can wake up the Muslim Ummah around that at any given time and at any given moment, tragedies do strike. And we have to be prepared at all times when tragedies does strike. So the best thing for us to do, again, is to become united as one. Now, I understand maybe people are tired of hearing the lectures on unity and everything, but you know what? I'm going to speak to this and I'm going to speak about this until I'm blue to my face. Why? Because it is very important to stress these type of things. And the reason why most scholars, I'm not calling myself a scholar, I consider myself a student, but most scholars, the reason why they touch on a lot of stuff is because me as a person or me as a listener of that lecture or of that speaker, I am not applying what's being taught. So sometimes we say, why don't you speak about spirituality? Why don't you speak about depth in the tafsir of the Quran and so forth? Yes? But you know what? These are wonderful topics. But if we, and if me, myself, I'm not applying what's wajib on me right now, how do I expect to understand or to reach that spiritual level, to understand the lecture that's very spiritual and very high in context when it comes to the Quran? This is why it is best, especially one of the big scholars in Islam, Allama Bahjat, what does he say? He was asked, give us an advice. One of his students asked him, wa alaikum salam, give us an advice. And how do I know this? Because I asked my Hausa teacher, one of my Hausa teachers, I asked him, give me an advice on how I can be more spiritual. How can I attend that spiritual guidance? He told me, it's very easy. I'm like, okay, if it's easy then, spill the beans. Tell me, what is it? Do your wajibat. I'm like, Maulana, with all due respect, okay, fine. And then he repeated it again. He's like, do your wajibat. I'm like, okay, Maulana. After that, and then what? He's like, do your wajibat. I'm like, okay, no problem. Then he asked me, he's like, I'll give you a secret. If you follow this secret, I'll give you more keys that will open doors to more secrets. So he asked the question. you wake up. When you wake up for prayers, what do you do? So, like a normal person, I get up, check my phone, any updates, any messages. Then I go do wudu, then I pray, then I go back to sleep. He's like, yes, you're doing your wajibat, but you're just doing the minimum, the bare minimum. You're just covering it. Instead, you want to know the secrets. You want to know the secrets that will open doors to more knowledge, and this knowledge will have keys in order for you to unlock more knowledge behind those doors. He's like, do this. Wake up an hour before prayers. Don't do wudu, don't do nothing. Just wake up an hour before prayers. Sit on your prayer mat for 5 minutes. Then get up, then go do your wudu. Then come back and sit on your prayer mat. Don't pray any mustahab prayers. Don't do nothing. Just sit there and contemplate. Contemplate about this world. Think about the hardships that you've been through or the hardships that you're going through. Why? Because when I do this, I'm clearing my mind. So when it comes to salat itself, all the troubles that are going through, when someone says, Allahu Akbar, what do? They raise their hands. And when I say, for example, when someone says, I give up, that's it. Khalas, I give up. Right? Meaning, I surrender myself. So here we're telling ourselves, I'm telling my soul, I need to surrender myself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when any trials or tribulations come my way, what do I say? I say, Allahu Akbar. Just recently, we all know about the tragedy or the plane crash that happened in Pearson Airport, yes? But also, more recently than that, there was a plane crash in Philadelphia. That's all. There were no survivors left. And if you see how the plane crashed at Pearson Airport, you'll be like, there's no way they're survivors. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His own plans. And when you look at the other plane crash that happened in Philadelphia, for sure you'll say there are no survivors that walked out of that airplane. So here we see that one, death is guaranteed for everyone. Guaranteed. When the person is going to go, when the person is going to return, this knowledge is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not with us. Imagine if we know, walaikum salam, if a person knows when they're going to die. If we were told, a doctor tells me, you know what? You have 2 months to live. 2 months, that's it. No longer. You're living for 2 months. The amount of prayers that I'm going to make up, the amount of reading of the Quran that I'm going to do, the amount of du'as that I'm going to do, it's like it's equivalent to all of my life within these 2 months. Why? Because a doctor told me. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me, death is guaranteed. Let me prolong it. Let me prolong it. I'm going to be religious when I get older, right? When I am married, or when I have kids, or when I have a career. When I get older, this is when I will start reading more of the Quran. This is when I will start fasting. This is when I will start praying. This is when I'll start doing my wajibat. But first of all, who told me that I'm going to live for that long? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guarantees death. Death is something that's guaranteed. So now it is up to us as individuals, because we see death happening all around us. I'll give you an example. When we look at the seasons, how many seasons do we have? Right? Look at the seasons and look at the change. Look at the trees and look how it changes. There are some trees that don't die during winter time, but there are some trees that die during fall time. But how and what signs do we see that the fact that this tree is going to die? We see the colors of the leaves change. Yes? That's first. Second, the leaves from the tree fall down to the ground. Then the tree has no leaves left. Then winter comes and it's covered with snow. Then spring comes. Then the leaves start growing again. And then the cycle starts all over again. Within our own skin, our own biological skin that we have, our own body, every day, millions or trillions of dead skin are on us. Either we scratch it, they're dead skin. We take a bath, we're washing the dead skin away. Dead cells are happening within us. So we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created and has warned us and guaranteed certain things to happen. Now it is up to us if we are going to wake up now or we're going to wake up when the person dies. Another example. Most people will say these are for the sisters. But you know what? I want to say it's for both. So let's be fair here. For the sisters, let it not be the first time that you wear your hijab is when you're being shrouded. Let that not be the first time of that person observing their hijab. For the males, also, let that not be the first time of observing your hijab. Because the Quran speaks to the male first. Then it speaks to the females. So if we want the females to observe their hijab, then the males first have to observe their hijab by what? One, lowering their gaze, speaking to them in a respectful manner, right? And also observing certain hijabs that need to be observed with non-mahram individuals. So we have to understand this. Like I said, we see everything happening around us. Death is happening around us. Signs are happening around us. And we see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like I said, with the recent accident that happened. These people with Toronto Pearson Airport, it wasn't their time. So they were all saved. But for the people, and for example in Philadelphia, it was their time to continue on the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to remind ourselves with these things. And especially with Shahr Ramadan coming, we need to purify our souls spiritually so that we may gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله العلي القدير. الحمد لله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله جبار السماوات والأرض. الحمد لله على ما أنعم وله الشكر على ما اللهم والثناء بما قدم. الحمد لله جبار السماوات والأرض. الحمد لله على ما أنعم وله الشكر على ما اللهم والثناء بما قدم. الحمد لله على كل نعمة كائنة أو هي كائنة. ثم الصلاة والسلام على المظلل بالغمام محمد وأهله الكرام. اللهم صل على محمد المصطفى وعلي المرتضى. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وفاطمة الزهراء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الحسن المجتبى والحسين شهيد في كربلاء. اللهم صل على وصلي على الأئمة المساهمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ومحمد بن باقر علم النبيين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وجعفر بن محمد الصادق. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وعلي بن موسى الرضا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ومحمد بن علي الجواد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. وعلي بن محمد الهادي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. والحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. والحجة القائم المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه والشريف. هؤلاء أئمتي وسادتي وقادتي بما أتولى ومن أعدائهم أتبرى. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The second khutbah, I would like to focus on the importance of our supplication and how we should speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before we even think about speaking or doing dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something that we want, first is that we have to praise Him through His names. Then, after we've done that, then the person speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for themselves first, and then for everyone else. After they've done this, then they can ask for their hajat. Now, why is it best to do it in this way? Because I want to make that relationship between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closer than anyone else that I have in my life. And how can I make that relationship close? Because if I am close with my Creator, then I will be close with His creation. To the point that when I make a certain supplication towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have no doubts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer it. This is the type of communication I need to have with my Creator. And another important relation and communication that I need to have is the communication between myself and the Imam of my time. Because if I have the relationship between me and Allah, and I have the relationship between myself and the Imam of my time, the relationship will be of such that if I go through anything, all I need to do is raise up my hand in supplication, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer it. Any trials or tribulations. Why? Because I have that relationship. And if I need anything, I ask my Imam of my time. To the point, now the question is, how do I start the relationship with the Imam of my time? Easy. Very easy. And here, I'm not going to say, do your wajibat. No. It's easier than that. Salam. Assalamu alayka ya sahib al-zaman. That's it. 3 times a day. 3 times a day. You know, when we have a doctor, when we're sick, they prescribe us with what? Medication. Some medication, they tell us, take this with food. Some of them say, you know what, this medication, you don't need food. You can take it without food. Yes? But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a prescription on how to get close to my Imam of my time, I want to put this aside. But what the doctor says, this is more important. I need to focus on this. And I will take that prescription religiously. Meaning I will make sure that I don't miss a day without taking that medication. Why? Because I want to cure my sickness, my physical sickness. But what about my spiritual sickness? What prescription has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed for me? What prescription has He prescribed for me? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the supplication. How to do it, how to apply it, how to take this prescription, the direction of this prescription. Look at the Imams alayhimus salam. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And to see the effects of these du'as, look at one person. One person only. Look at one person. And this person I'm telling you to look at is not an imam, not a prophet. Fatimah al-Zahra alayha salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Look at her. Look at her story. Look at her story in Fadak. Look how she defended the imam of her time, not her husband. The imam of her time. To the point that she was about to raise her hand in dua. And Amir al-Mu'mineen told one of the companions to stop her. Look at the effects of her dua. Look at the results of what will happen if she was to make a certain dua against certain individuals that oppressed her. This is the effects of the dua. Now, let's look at someone who is not an imam, who's not a wife of the Imam, who's not a prophet, who brought the throne in front of, before the blink of an eye. Look at Sayyidah Maryam alayha salam. Look at the amount of dua that she did and how she supplicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of her. Look at certain scholars. You know, certain scholars are not known to have conversations with the Imam until when? Until their death. This is when we knew that this person had meetings, had personal meetings with the Imam. We want to see the Imam of our time, yes? We want to go visit the Imam of our time, yes? We want to go to Majlis Sahla and we want to see the Imam of my time, yes? But you know what? If our supplications is so pure and pure enough, the Imam will come to you. You don't have to go anywhere. The Imam will come to you. For example, there was a story of a lady who never left her house for many years. And the scholar was always wanting to see the Imam. Always wanted to see the Imam. He prayed, made du'as, made supplications, wanting to see the Imam. So once he was told, you want to see the Imam? The Imam said, go to this place. Go to this house. You will see your Imam. He goes. He finds out that there's a funeral going on, taking place. The Imam is like, only if you were like her, I would come visit you myself. What was the rule that was put? The ruler of that time said that any Muslims seen wearing hijab will be prosecuted, will be executed. So she remained in her house until she passed away. The Imam came to her. Sahib al-Zaman came to her. Now imagine, when we say Assalamu alayka ya Sahib al-Zaman every single time, 3 times a day. 3 times a day. If 3 times a day is too much, do it twice a day. I prescribe twice a day. Which days? Before you go to sleep and right when you wake up. That's it. If 3 times a day is too much, twice a day. When you wake up and before you go to sleep. Before you go to sleep, meaning when you're lying down, you're ready to sleep, that's when you say, Assalamu alayka ya Sahib al-Zaman. When we make this relationship with the Imam of my time, and on top of that, if I'm going through any trials or tribulations, the Imam of my time is right beside me, waiting with me. Going through whatever it is that I'm going through, he's going through with me. Now, when I have someone going through these trials and tribulations with me, I know that I am safe. Why? Because my Imam is with me. And walaikum salam. And when my Imam is with me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me. So nothing can ever threaten me. Nothing will ever harm me. Why? Because I truly know that my Allah is with me and my Imam of my time with me. Not our. I have to personalize it. My Allah is with me and my Imam of my time is with me. So nothing that you can throw to me will ever harm me. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Now, I remember Sheikh Shafiq Huda saying this in one of his lectures. I'm going to obviously paraphrase the story. there was a person cleaning the streets, and there were zuwars visiting Imam al-Qadim alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala. So the zuwars saw him, they're like, listen, why don't you take a break and go do your ziyarah to the Imam. Go do your ziyarah to the Imam. The person cleaning said, you want to do ziyarah, yes? He's like, yes. He's like, did you hear the Imam respond to your salams, to your ziyarah? He's like, no. Why would he? I went, and obviously he responded. He's like, yes. But did you hear him respond to your ziyarah? They're like, no. The person cleaning faced towards the grave of the Imam, gave his salam. A voice was heard, wa alayka salam ya fulan ibn fulan. Imagine. This is the relationship that he has. So if we make that relationship with the Imam of our time, you think he won't respond to our salam to the point that we can hear it? Tabahan, of course he can. Because he is with us. And I guarantee you, the moment he reappears, inshallah it's soon, but the moment we are ready and he reappears, I guarantee you, 100%, every single person will say that, I have seen this man before. I have seen this man before. Every one of us will say that. But I haven't recognized him. The soul and the spirit hasn't recognized the Imam of my time. For me, when I see him, I'm like, that's the Imam of my time. This is the type of spirituality we need to reach. And in order to reach this spirituality, we need to do supplications, and we need to make that relationship between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the best ways to do it is to apply and practice my wajibat. That's it. Then slowly work my relationship. Then when it comes to the supplications to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I need to make this supplication personal. No one is with me. I'm making this supplication personal. It's me and Allah. It's not me and everyone else. No, it's me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we read the ziyarah for Imam, for the Friday ziyarah for the Imam of our time, we all need to read it within our souls or out loud. And I need to make it personal. I'm like, Imam, I'm speaking with you. I'm sending my salams to you. Will you not respond to me? Make it personal. And I guarantee you, when you make it personal, physically and spiritually, tears will flow down your eyes without you even noticing. Why? Because you're making that connection. And when we make that connection, this is when we are ready for the Imam of our time. Sallallahu Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, I just wanted to announce that along with tonight's program, we would like to dedicate the thawab for Marhum Naseem Hassanzada, who was the uncle to brother Mir Hashmat, inshallah. And Niyaz will also be sponsored by their family, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.